Hello everyone, today I have a theory about Ralsei's true identity. Let's get right into this, shall we? The theory I have is fairly simple, right? I think that Ralsei is made to mirror Kris. But what do I mean by mirror? Let's take a look at this line from Susie here. They state that quiet people make them angry, right? Now, someone else says the same thing. And now look at this. The same thing, Quiet people make them angry. And since they say the same thing, they're clearly a parallel in some way, right? Some kind of mirror. It seems like the Chaos King is sort of reflecting the behavior of Susie, except at this point, of course, Susie has developed. But let me give you another example. Here is the Queen, right? I think the Queen is meant to mirror or parallel Berdly. Let's take a look at the scene here. During this scene, you're going to see that the Queen is going to propose that they have a uneasy truce. In just a moment. Come on, hurry up the dialogue. An uneasy truce. So it's come to this. In order to find our respective teams, it appears we have to find or make an uneasy truce. You see? It's the same type of dialogue. They're kind of mirroring each other. There's another example in chapter 2. And it's right here. A battery acid pie. You're going to notice the cake sprite or pie sprite. Now let's take a look at the one that Berdly brings. The Gamer's Delight is the same thing as the battery acid pie in appearance, so it's probably the same thing. You notice that the Queen and Berdly both seem to care about Noelle and are seeking them, looking around, trying to help them, just in their own way. So I think I can say that it seems like the Queen is meant to mirror Berdly in some way. Now, let's go ahead and look at Noelle. What does Noelle have mirrored? I think Noelle is actually a little more complicated. Now, the game says from Sham that the Lightners gave the Darkners purpose, and as Ralsei says here, if we just go back a moment, Ralsei will say, Queen, think the Lightners, aren't we supposed to make them happy? And the Queen affirms that that's what the Queen believes she's doing. So, putting all that together, the Darkners are supposed to serve them, they're supposed to, or make them happy, they're supposed to also have their purpose be given to them by the Lightners. Now, let's take a look at Noelle. When you first get Noelle to join the party, let me skip forward, and you start going back, you start getting enemies that appear just for this one occasion for Noelle heading back, right? And if you go on ahead, right, as you start freezing enemies, you start getting enemy encounters in locations that they don't normally appear. Almost like the world's trying to accommodate Noelle's hunt for enemies. And as you go on forward, the card puzzles disappear for some reason, and there's no reason for the cards to disappear just because you're freezing enemies unless Noelle's actions were somehow being reflected into the world because Noelle was freezing the enemies and, becoming more cold because the coldness stat was going up. Traffic was frozen. Because of the fact that Noelle is pursuing to get stronger, Noelle is offered a ring to become stronger, right? Specifically stronger. And one interesting thing is that it is $1 too much every time. So maybe that symbolizes how Noelle's kind of been afraid of it. They're always falling short. I'm not quite sure what the lot being $1 short of being stronger means, but the world does this special thing just for Noelle if Noelle does something new, something specific, and starts getting stronger. Eventually, all of these puzzle things are frozen when you first enter rooms, despite the fact that Noelle wouldn't have gotten a chance to freeze them. Almost like Noelle freezing the puzzles is starting to freeze, well, the world. Now, the important thing, though, is that that means Noelle has part of the light or the dark world reflecting them. Susie is part of the dark world reflecting them, and Berdly has part of the dark world reflecting them. So what is reflected in Kris? And the answer seems to be, what if the reflection was a little different than others? It was an ally. Someone who looked just like someone they were close to, Kris's brother. We know that because of searches in the castle or Kris's search results, right? That they were looking up when Asriel would come back, seemingly meaning that Kris is missing Asriel, and maybe the person to mirror them is the person they're missing. During this scene, the players watching it after Ralsei, gets them to start taking a look at what's happening with Susie, but Ralsei was speaking to Kris, despite the fact you were having a vision. But why would they be speaking to Kris if you weren't there? Unless Kris was, they had reason to speak to Kris. And again, when the vision ends in chapter 2, if you choose to do it after Ralsei tries to start it, they were mid-sentence to Kris again. During the Snowgrave route, of course, you can't actually have the cutscene event happen. Ralsei will try to trigger it here, but yeah, you just will not do the cutscene. The person controlling Kris will not be distracted, and Ralsei is pretty caught off guard by that. They'll try a couple of times, you just don't reply, and then after waiting a minute, Susie comes out without it happening, and you'll see Ralsei is very caught off guard, not by Susie coming out suddenly, but because the cutscene never triggered. Wait, we were supposed to. You see? They were caught very off guard. With that in mind, it seems like Ralsei knows that something is with or up with Kris and they're trying to speak to them secretly about the person controlling them. But how would they know that unless they were made to reflect Kris and therefore already knew a lot about Kris because of that? I think it's possible, since they're modeled after Kris's brother, that they would know a lot about them. I imagine that they would feel like, that Asriel would know everything about them, Kris. So if they feel like Asriel knew everything about them, they had a Dark World version of Asriel, then maybe Ralsei knows everything, including them being controlled. So I think with that puts together my whole theory. I hope you'll enjoy it, and please like the video or even subscribe if you think this is a good theory, because that will help support the channel. And if you've anything you want to add or make a counterpoint, go ahead and drop a comment. With that, I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.